Hey everyone, just want to encourage you to find us on your listening platform and give us a rating. Anywhere you listen to that has a rating system, go on over and give us a rating and maybe leave us a review. Let us know your thoughts. These ratings really do help. Thank you so much for listening. On to this week's episode. No. No. Stop. We're going to enter a horror movie.
We already did because we're recording together.
Oh God, deadites, please get him, not me.
Deadites. That was one of the reviews I saw for the new Evil Dead, which was Deadite. Which I thought was like clever.
That is cute. I like that. Actually, that was a question for trivia. It was one of those anagram ones that Geeks Who Drink do. So it's like, oh, this new horror movie anagrams to, and I don't remember what they did it for.
Interesting.
Yeah, so apparently it has over 90% on the tomato meter.
Wow. Good for it.
Good for what we're talking about today, which is the 5th installment in the Evil Dead franchise, Evil Dead Rise. We're getting to it. Groovy. Let's open the Book of the Dead and let's get into it, guys. Groovy's a reference to Evil Dead 2.
Oh, I didn't see Evil Dead 2. I draw the line.
You guys, you were looking at me with blank eyes.
Yeah.
So. But you weren't possessed by deadites. So it was just...
That was just straight up just what?
Dead inside.
I'm Nicole.
And I'm Rolando.
And I'm Eddie Z.
And this is Remakes, Reboots, and Revivals.
An original podcast
About
Unoriginality.
Hello everyone, what's up? Welcome back to another week of Remix, Reboots, and Revivals. Sorry, I don't know why I kicked it into old school radio talk.
I know, you're doing your best Casey Kasem, who is dead, by the way.
Right, I think we talked about this. Where I was confused if he was alive. I think for the Scooby-Doo episode.
Yeah.
I think he was dead by then.
Yeah, he was.
Okay,
he had died already a while ago. It's been a while.
So we're going to be talking about Evil Dead today. But first, we do have some news.
Let's get some news.
Eddie Z, you've got some news for us, right?
Noah's Ark, a TV show that I used to watch on the Logo channel, which at the time was kind of like the gay channel. According to their director, it is coming back.
Wow. Original cast?
So far what I can see, it looks like original cast. I mean, there were 3 members, I think 3 or 4 cast members that were present at the announcement.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So, I used to watch this. They used to actually marathon this quite often. So
they did.
We watched just like a bunch of episodes. It would always be on TV. I enjoyed this very much because this was always kind of like, people of color. So that was exciting for me. I mean, queer as folk was one thing, but there was something to see kind of like, minorities and their own lives and dealing with like their friendships and being gay and sex life and stuff. So I very much enjoyed this show and excited. And they had actually how they wrapped up the show was one of their they did a movie that kind of end the show, and it was kind of the getting together, the final get together of 2 of the characters getting married.
Yeah.
I think it was called Jumping the Broom.
Jumping the Broom?
Jumping the Broom, yeah.
Okay, that sounds
it's a
dirty.
Tradition. No, it's a tradition.
But yeah, no, I saw that. I think I saw it on my TikTok, and I sent it to Eddie because I was pretty sure that he was a fan of this show. I've never seen it before.
Wow.
Yeah, I've never seen that, nor the other one. Dante's Cove is the other like gay drama that comes to mind. But I think that was more like a softcore.
Yeah, it's total. Yeah, Dante's Cove, total campy. Basically, it's soft porn, and it's all about like witches and the supernatural, and there's werewolves and stuff.
But it's gay.
It's
not like it's like a gay show.
It's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, I've never seen that. I mean, I definitely know Noah's Ark when I watched Logo, and like I think RuPaul leaving Logo really did that channel dirty. I don't even is Logo still a thing?
Logo is still a thing. It's not a. They don't brand themselves as like strictly LGBTQ anymore though. Like now they're just like pop culture.
Oh, that's a shame.
Yeah.
Well, that's exciting actually.
But RuPaul
I saw that.
didn't- I was gonna say, but RuPaul didn't leave like out of her own fruition. Like I'm pretty sure Logo is owned by Paramount and Viacom.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not like saying RuPaul, fuck you for doing that, but like after it left, the channel just suffered.
It did
pretty much.
It did, but
So.
I mean, that's the problem with networks.
You gotta grow. You gotta grow.
Yeah, like if you're like relying on the success of one show, you become like MTV and ridiculousness 24/7,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is a fucking tragedy.
And unfortunately, we were never really getting good quality shows that were about the LGBTQ community. But Noah's Ark is one of those shows that even though I felt like it didn't have kind of like the flashiness of Queer as Folk, but it had strong stories, and characters that kind of drew you in. So,
Yeah.
So
it was a very like realistic show, it like took itself seriously, but it also was like a nice balance of lightheartedness. I think the normalizing like not only gayness but like gayness in minorities was also a wonderful thing to grow up with. Like when I would see it, I would never like religiously watch it. I can't tell you anyone's names, but when I saw it, I was like, this isn't a joke. This isn't something like, this is actually a really good show.
Yeah.
Which back then, more often these kind of communities were getting mocked. So.
Right. Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to checking it out, and hopefully we'll be covering it on the podcast if and when it drops. You know how these announcement goes sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
And I love the play on the name, Noah's Ark.
I know. Yeah, Noah's Ark. His Ark. Yeah.
Yes.
So I thought you were actually talking about the Russell Crowe film at first, and I was like, no. So I'm so glad it wasn't that.
Yeah.
So glad. Yeah, that's awesome. There's some interesting stuff coming up in these next couple of weeks too that, it's only going to get more interesting after this. I was kind of begrudgingly doing Evil Dead because I kind of have like meh feelings on this franchise.
Mm-hmm.
And also as horror as a genre, it's just not my go-to, especially the subgenre of demons and possessions, which are like the things that get to me, which it's bizarre because I'm more likely, the odds are that I could probably get killed by a serial killer before I'll get possessed by a demon. And yet I find the whole demon stuff scarier than slasher movies. I also find hauntings. Those are like the two things that I'm like, I'd rather not. I'd rather sleep tonight kind of a thing.
Okay.
So I saw The Exorcist when I was like 11, and it did its damage to me. I can't watch demon possession movies the same since. So it's not like an enjoyable thing for me. And especially because, Evil Dead is a franchise, it's taken a bunch of different turns in terms of its tone and the genre that you could arguably say it actually is. But overall, it is a staple of the horror genre. So we're gonna dig in deep to this one.
Right.
To use an overused phrase. So when did you guys first see Evil Dead? Any Evil Dead property? What was your experience?
The first time I saw like a full Evil Dead anything related was probably a couple years ago when I saw an episode of Ash versus the Evil Dead at Comic-Con. And that's not true. I mean, prior to that in college, I had seen bits and pieces of the Evil Dead because I think we studied it in school, because it's like every filmmaker's dream. Make a indie low-budget film, start off as a short film, get backers, and then rake in millions of dollars and, start off a career as Sam Raimi did. So, but I never really watched it until this week for this podcast.
That is crazy. Yeah. Wow.
No, I saw the Evil Army of the Dead?
Army of Darkness.
Army of Darkness. Yeah, I saw that one last year when we were at a friend's barbecue. It was playing, and we just sat down and watched, and it was awful.
It's very different. Did you know the original title of that was supposed to be Medieval Dead, but the studio made them change it.
That would have been funnier.
Right?
That would have made more sense.
Seriously. Wow. So first time this week. Eddie, you too?
No, I've seen at least the first 3 when I was a kid. So when they I saw them like you rented the videos store.
Got it. Yeah.
Get it as a cassette. So I've seen them as a little kid. So I was always I was always kind of fascinated with horror, and the only thing this particular horror is always, well, it's like after the first one, then it gets a little funny. You know, they try to insert the comedy into it, which you can. I prefer the seriousness of it, you know.
Okay.
But
yeah.
in that too, it was more horrifying because I felt like there's really nothing you can do in this situation. Like a lot of horror movies, there's a way. Maybe if you destroy something, destroy the book, or if you if you get a talisman or say a ritual or get a priest do an exorcism, there's some way of fighting against the demon. But this is like you have to destroy the body, and then still the possibility of possession. They don't really die. They don't really go away. They just look for the next opportunity here.
Yeah. So, once unleashed, you can't put it back.
And it's so funny too, because looking back at these both movies, the new one and the original, it's like before it's unleashed, it's hinting that it wants to be unleashed too. So it's like setting the stage. I'm gonna be unleashed. So it's like this weird thing. I'm out there, but I'm gonna be really out there once this spell is said or this prayer is said. Incantation.
Yeah. This I remember seeing Evil Dead, the first one, The Evil Dead, for the first time, and I used to have a basement where I would project movies, and a group of us watched it. And I remember definitely trying to underplay how much I wasn't enjoying it because of the demonic stuff. But it ended up being a good time. Years later, then I saw Evil Dead 2 and was I was older, I was more into the filmmaking of it, and I was just amazed by everything about that movie. And I also agree, Army of Darkness is just, it's too silly. It was too much studio interference. It was just not what you loved about the first 2 films.
Right.
Yeah.
I have a question. So you said you didn't like the Evil Dead, which is the original one. Because of the demonic possession stuff. It had nothing to do with...
When I was younger, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so, I mean, I didn't like it because I feel like the characters made no sense in their actions.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so that was my original take on it. It's not my favorite of the franchise. My favorite is Evil Dead 2. I think Evil Dead 2 actually kind of remakes the first film. Even though it turns it into another film halfway through, but I think it does it better. And this is the ultimate indie film. This is Sam Raimi with Bruce Campbell, and even the help of, because they were friends with the Coen brothers, so a bunch of them were making movies.
The Coen brothers?
The Coen brothers.
Wow. I didn't know that.
They helped the Coen brothers make their first film, which was Blood Simple. So they're all kind of helping each other, and they made this movie, and it was all just them doing the best that they could with barely any budget. I think they did less than $100,000, which for even now, that's still it's a thin budget.
No, I thought the budget was $345,000 by the end.
For this one?
For the Evil Dead.
I think that maybe after in post, but initially they just had gotten less than $100,000.
I know there was a $90,000 cash infusion that they had gotten. That was after they finally had a producer who was like, "All right, I'm interested. I saw your short film. Here's a little bit of money." Again, the dream.
Seriously, the dream. I mean, it's a story that everyone wants to happen to them. And you could tell that this film was very independently made and not a lot of studio interference, especially for a movie that came out in 1981. And it uses practical effects, and it uses practical effects in the most 80s and beautiful way possible, with artist Tom Sullivan creating a lot of the deadite special effects you see. And this film became a cult film. It got a sequel 6 years later in 1987, which I've said it before, I think 1987 is the penultimate year of the 80s. I think that's when it starts to break out of 80s tropes, but also kind of define them. And some of the most important movies of the 80s came out in 87, so Evil Dead 2, Fatal Attraction, which we will be doing.
Yeah, that's right. We will be covering that soon.
Yeah, which I'm excited for. Raising Arizona, which I also think is a beautiful kind of like slapsticky, Looney Tune-ish kind of movie. Like people were starting to expand what they can do and how they can blend genres together and influences. And that was a film by the Coen brothers, right? So this group of people. Yeah, I think Evil Dead 2 is just so good. I mean, we're not going to talk about Evil Dead 2, but I do think it's a better film. So the plot of the Evil Dead is that there's 5 students and they're all renting a cabin, isolated cabin in rural Tennessee.
They were college students, right?
Yeah, Michigan State.
Yeah.
Sorry, I think I heard a noise. And pretty much, when they get there, they
Is it the Deadites?
come across, it's the Deadites at my door. They find a Sumerian book of the dead called the Naturam de Monto.
I know, which is obviously where you find all Sumerian.
Also, yeah, in Tennessee.
Sumerian or Sumatran?
Sumerian.
What's the difference?
That I don't know, but I just know it's a Sumerian.
All right. Well, but that's where you would find them all in Tennessee, in the cabin.
In Tennessee, yeah. I guess Joseph Smith was right. All these things happen in America too.
Yes, that's right.
And they also find a tape recorder from an archaeologist who essentially found this book and recited its incantations and did it on recording, which, is such a good idea, right? If you got a book that you find from ancient times and you're going to read it out loud, might as well record yourself.
Yeah, right.
And
what is the mindset here? It's because when he's speaking, he knows the person who made the recording, he knows that, like, if you read this out loud, did he not think that the recording counts? Like, you're not reading it, it's being just, like, recited. Does that make sense? Like, it doesn't, because I it's funny. I feel like I've been watching more and more, like, these demonic or horror stuff with, like, Eddie as of late, but I keep bringing up these random questions that I start thinking about. It's just like, well, how do the demons know what is 3 a.m.? Like, do they honor daylight savings time or not? For example, because 3 a.m. is like the bewitching hour or whatever.
Yeah.
So how do ghosts know this? Like, are they respecting daylight savings or not? Do you know, Nicole? I don't think. And more importantly, it's like, how do they, like, what about time zones? How does that affect the ghost's perception of time? So that's why I think it's like all silliness. Anyway.
Yes. No, these are great skeptical points to arise. But for the sake of it, ghosts know all and ghosts do all, or demons. Let's say demons. These incantations that they're hearing in the tape pretty much resurrect them. And they resurrect a demonic entity, and we come to know them as the Deadites.
We don't get to know. The word Deadite is never said in this film, though.
Yeah, eventually throughout the series.
Okay.
I think in Evil Dead 2.
Right.
And here's the thing. Because they kind of remake Evil Dead with Evil Dead 2, I get them really easily mixed up. So I probably will do it again, and I apologize.
That's fine.
So essentially one by one, they all get possessed and die in horrific ways, leaving Ash to be the last one. What was your favorite death?
Oh, that's a good question. Who was my favorite death? Recite them for me, because I don't, off the top of my head, I don't remember them.
Well, so the first one is the tree, which I think is one of the best ones.
No, she didn't die from the tree, though.
She got raped by the tree.
She was raped by the tree, which I thought was so weird. It was like, I think, needlessly sexual for no reason.
Oh yeah, no, they 100%. That was the intention.
Yeah, like that scene, it was so, I think, grotesque a little bit, but
absolutely.
She didn't die then. She didn't die until a little later on. Who? God, I don't know. I feel like, because no one really dies until the very end when, like, they start blowing up after he burns the Necromonicon. So it's like hard to say. It's like, what's my favorite possession? I guess maybe it was the second girl.
The what girl?
the second girl who got possessed.
Oh, so not Cheryl.
I mean, Cheryl.
Linda.
I don't like.
You don't remember their names?
I don't remember their names. The first girl was the one who got manhandled by a tree.
Yes.
Right.
That's Cheryl.
She becomes like your predominant deadite for the rest of the film, and then she eventually passes the infection on to the next girl, who I think was the other guy's girlfriend. I wish I knew their names.
Scott's
girlfriend. Yeah.
Shelley.
Is that Shelley? Okay, Shelley.
Yeah.
I feel like her possession like comes to mind more so because like when she attacks her boyfriend and stuff in the bathroom, it's a whole mess.
Yeah. Well, Cheryl in the cellar, like trying to get out too, is just one of the images that have always stuck in my head about this movie.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that it for 1981, for completely independent and not studio interfered. This is some impressive special effects
for 1981.
For 1981, yeah.
like, I think that's an important but.
Oh yeah, by the way, Evil Dead 2, just going back to that, 87, Hellraiser, which made me think of Hellraiser when I was watching all these different films in the franchise.
I can see that with the body horror.
The body horror, right? The deforming and the complete, just like body dysmorphia almost happening. That people started to really love in their horror movies in the 80s. I wonder why.
I wish I knew the psychology behind that, but I do not know. However, interesting, Hellraiser comes up again because when I saw the 2013 remake and the new revival or reboot, we'll talk about that. Same thing. I got vibes from the new Hellraiser, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. And I just want to, because I know we did come down a little hard on the previous Hellraiser, but we'll talk about this when we.
Well, the Hellraiser first one was just such a fucking masterpiece.
Oh yeah, no, wonderful. But I'm talking about the remake.
Yeah, no. Yeah. I think we were so disappointed in comparison because the first one's just so good. Right. So, yeah, I mean, it's just about a bunch of kids getting fucking possessed in a cabin. I mean, there's not really much more to say about the Evil Dead.
How popular was this trope? Like having a bunch of kids in the cabin.
Well, Cabin in the Woods.
I know, Cabin in the Woods. I know. Really flips this idea on its head, but like, what is your progenitor for?
Well, so the slasher film and like horror as a genre really came into birth in the 70s and then exploded onto the mainstream in the 80s. So I would say this was one of the first Cabin in the Wood films, honestly.
Yeah, I agree, because technically Friday the 13th, it was a campground, not one cabin. Yeah. This one is all isolated to just the one cabin, and they break down a bridge to keep that isolation even more heightened. Yeah.
And Friday the 13th was only a year before.
Oh, wow. So you didn't even realize that.
Yeah. Well, Halloween, one of the biggest slasher movies, was 78. So this is all like the birth of these genres that we know so well.
Right.
I think maybe The Exorcist is what really kicked off demonic movies, but then it became like The Omen followed that, and like people like getting like singular person getting possessed or like being the son of Satan or whatever. I think this film then began the whole like, hey, different demons possessing and contorting and completely destroying your body trope. But then again, I don't know too many. Again, I'm not like a horror expert.
Yeah,
so I can't say all the films that it inspired after this.
If you are a horror lover out there, by all means, reach out, let us know our history of these horror films, because I love a good horror movie, but I don't know their history. I'm not like a fanatic in that sense.
Yeah, me neither. I mean, I think what's most impressive about this is truly the filmmaking and the really inspired filmmaking. I think that even goes a step further in the second one. Which I just think is the best film of the franchise and a really unique, well-done film. But yeah, it's creative. These filmmakers clearly did not have any blockades in front of them. They didn't have any rules or restrictions. They were able to do whatever they wanted. And the product is just really different and refreshing. I think, like we're saying now, looking at it from 2023, we see the tropes, we see the datedness, but really just appreciating it for this kind of moment in time. I do think it's a really great American film. Not as good as Evil Dead 2, but
I think it's fine. I don't think it's like, I actually don't understand the obsession with it, because watching it back is just like, wow, like I understand respect the filmmaking of it. I can respect actually the effects.
Mm-hmm.
I think other than that, like, this movie was kind of like hollow. Like, sometimes we focus too much on the effects.
Yeah,
Like,
there was
like,
no character
like,
building.
you know how like in the modern day cinema, it's all about the CGI effects and like seeing that. Like, sometimes we just focus too much on like that kind of the prosthetics exploding and all this stuff. I was just like, I don't need this much of it. Like, you're kind of because when you hold on those shots for too long, like, you see the cartooniness come out and you see the prosthesis of it all, you know, and it kind of irritated me a little. We shot this, these are the most expensive things that we produced for this movie, so we're going to really put them front and center. And I think that kind of detracted a little from this film, to be quite honest. Not to say that's my biggest irk with this film. The next big problem I had was kind of the characters' reactions to things just seemed so far out of the realm of reality. Like, there's just scenes where Scott and Ash are just looking dumbfounded by what they're seeing. And not reacting in, like, any plausible manner.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Do you think you would be that reactionary if all of a sudden Eddie got possessed by a demon, or would you just kind of stand there shocked by the fact that it's happening?
I don't know if I would be shocked as much as I'd be more, like, figuring out how to restrain a person. There was, like, no attempt at that for, like, long stretches of time. You know what I mean? And it kind of it bugged me a little, because I was just like, this could have been a better film if you just put a little more thought into the character actions and stuff. And it could have been just, like, hey, that wasn't the goal for the film. The goal for the film was to
showcase this,
the gore.
Absolutely. But I get it. I totally get it, and that you kind of need that. I mean, the fact that the characters are pretty indistinguishable from one another
all the
really
girls
shows.
I could not differentiate. When I found out that Ash was the brother to one of the first girl who got infected, I was just like, I just found that out right now, like halfway through the film, you know?
Yeah. That's right, Cheryl. But I mean, again, I definitely think this is a visual feast, and in that way, I applaud them for what they did, and then what they perfected in Evil Dead 2. And I love the way that this film ends. I think it's actually a really beautiful shot when Ash is walking away from the cabin, and all of a sudden the POV of the demon follows him and it goes right into his mouth. I think it's such a beautiful shot.
That's actually my favorite thing about these. Like, they had like those shots of like just the POV of the demon.
The POV, wonderful stuff.
That became like the style for all the possessions going forward.
Yeah. At least for the Bruce Campbell ones. Bruce Campbell becomes like the main character of this series. He's always the one who survives Ash Williams, and he's back for Evil Dead 2, which becomes more of a comedy, or it does a fine line. It's like very dark comedy. And then Army of Darkness, which is way more comedic to the point where it's distracting. I mean, the Evil Dead franchise has spawned so many different things. It's spawned video games.
Speaking of video games, actually, Ryan, who was one of the guests for our episodes, he did the music for the video game.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, he did one of the tracks for the Evil Dead video game.
Nice, that's awesome. It's gotten comic books. There was a musical. Somebody wrote an Evil Dead musical because it's very fitting for that. Yeah, and a television series that happened called Ash vs. the Evil Dead, which was on Netflix from 2015 to 2018.
Right when we original.
I know it's on Netflix now. I think that's why. Maybe
you could stream it on Netflix, but it was
a Starz original. Yeah, this is very culty, right? This has always been had a cult following. People who know Bruce Campbell. He's not like a mainstream name. He's more of like a cult fan base name. You know, people who like B movies or independent movies or whatever. They're more familiar, and they're more of the stands of these movies. And he's always been synonymous with it.
Right. Ash vs. the Evil Dead features Lucy Lawless, and actually I was just talking with Eddie about it, because I was just like, because we saw a random episode at Comic-Con, and I remember that venue was packed for that screening, because you had Bruce Campbell also come on stage and kind of talk to... Was he giving out money?
Yeah, he was giving out money.
I don't remember that. That's so funny. He's so funny. He's such a funny, like, personality. But I remember it it was when we were just rewatching The Evil Dead, the first one. I was like, oh, he has such a distinct look. He's a very handsome man, but he's goofy also. At the same time.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
And then I was thinking about the Ash versus the Evil Dead, and I was thinking, it's just like, how did they end up with Lucy Lawless? And Eddie had to remind me that Bruce Campbell was like a regular on Xena.
Yeah, well, Ted Raimi was too.
Who?
Ted Raimi, Sam Raimi's brother, was a regular on Xena.
Also.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, so, and I think Bruce Campbell was on it a couple times, but it was Ted Raimi who was like, to the point I think he was a supporting character. He was a regular supporting character. So they're all part of like the same kind of group.
Right.
Whatever you want to call them. What are your thoughts on Sam Raimi as a director?
I mean, I liked Spider-Man.
Okay, that's it.
I don't know his other films. What other films?
So he made the 3 Evil Dead movies. He did A Simple Plan. He did The Quick and the Dead.
I don't know that
He did do the Spider-Man movies. And he did the most recent Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness film.
Which was okay. I wasn't wowed by it, but it's also Doctor Strange, you know. What do you...
Okay, yeah. So those are like, I think, his big films. I hope I'm not forgetting a big one. Yeah, no, those are it. Oh yeah, he did Oz the Great and Powerful. So random.
Oh, that movie was terrible though.
Yeah, no, it wasn't very good. But he was involved with Xena and
disliked
Hercules TV shows and stuff. So
where do you stand? Xena versus Hercules. Which one was a better show?
Xena.
Yeah, Xena was a way better show. When is that getting remade?
I know, right? There's been talks about it, but
they should screw Hercules. I want like a Xena.
Yeah,
I want like a Xena reboot.
Yeah, I want a mythology thing. I want like a show that just takes place.
Oh, that would be
Ancient
amazing.
Greece mythology stuff.
Let's get like, one season covering the Iliad, another season covering the Odyssey. Like, let's do like full Game of Thrones immersion.
I'm surprised that hasn't been done. I mean, I know. Yeah, it's weird. We go to medieval, but we don't go to like antiquities, you know.
Yeah. So when they said that they announced that Evil Dead was going to get resurrected, if you will, in 2013, it was like, is this going to be the long-awaited 4th Evil Dead movie with Ash? And no, it wasn't. It was going to be a soft reboot that was a loose continuation of the series. Just, the Deadites and the Book of the Dead getting in the hands of somebody else.
Right.
And they remade it in, I guess, 2013.
Yeah,
That's
2013 is when it came out.
Yeah, and that was just called Evil Dead.
The talks for it came out as early as 2004. Bruce Campbell was still attached to the project, though. In 2013, he actually made a cameo appearance at the very, very end of the film.
Yes, yep, he does. And there was going to be this whole thing where it was like, okay, now we have another character, Mia Allen, who's going to be the next Ash Williams, and we're going to go through her. But they didn't do that. Evil Dead Rise, 10 years later, they're making and they revived this fucking dead thing yet again. And it's a brand new slate of people.
I know, which I'm surprised because the 2013 film was... I watched it for the podcast. I know that you and I said that we weren't going to really talk about it, but I had to just a little bit. I'm impressed with this film. It was actually really good, and compared to the budget and how much it took in the box office, it was not a flop by any means. So I'm surprised that this franchise didn't continue. I guess it just didn't get like the buzz going for it, but I think they took the general plot of the original The Evil Dead and kind of just added a little bit more drama to it, which I think worked to the benefit here. So this is the story of Mia. She's played by the girl from Zoe's Incredible Playlist.
Okay.
Jane Levy, that's her name. But she gives a really great performance because the story really focuses on her. She's the first one possessed, and she gives like this really incredible performance of she's a recovering addict who her friends have brought her to the woods, including her brother, to help her, go clean cold turkey. And then she gets possessed by this evil demonic force. And it works well because, when you're thinking of, she's an addict also, right? So a lot of her reactions, her friend group are just assuming it's just like, oh, this is just because she's going cold turkey. And they're trying to help her through that journey. Meanwhile, she's being possessed by one of these deadites. And the gore is actually pretty horrific. I think it was and I think at the core, the main storyline is this brother-sister kind of tense relationship they had after the death of their mom because the brother wasn't there, and it kind of like it flips our expectations upside down because we assume that he's going to be the Ash in this storyline, but he turns out to be the final demon, and she ends up getting depossessed, and so she ends up becoming the Ash, with the chainsaw, with the missing limb and everything. And it flipped what we were expecting on its head, and I think it did such a great job of it. We even got the tree. We even got like a little bit of a tree rape scene also, but it was like a female monster that did it to her this time, which I don't know if that makes it better, but still.
Yeah.
It was. I'm surprised that this. I don't know why this film didn't get like the love it kind of deserves, because I thought it was actually I thought it was a compelling remake. I'm just like, oh, this is actually. It takes all the problems I had with the original one, and it kind of fixes them, in my opinion, while delivering you the core. And I think it kind of fixed the tonal problem that the follow-ups to the Evil Dead have, which is just like kind of going through the comedy. This one went straight right into horror and suspense.
Yeah. So once again, it took a turn where it was like, okay, the series got very B-movie, very campy, very balanced between horror and comedy, and it seems like with the new Evil Dead, they're like, nope, back to just plain old horror.
And what I remember in the Army of Darkness and stuff, there were supposed to be 3 Necromonicon books. Right, scattered throughout history and the world and stuff. So I think what fans and like even the creators just alluded to, that this is one of the 3 books, and that's how we tie into the new one, the Evil Dead Rise, or just Evil Dead Rise.
So Evil Dead Rise just recently came out. It was directed and written by Lee Cronin, who I think is a relatively young filmmaker.
Yeah, he's Irish. I know that much.
Yeah. It was produced by Rob Tappert, who did produce the original series, and I think not Lee Cronin, sorry, Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell were somewhat executive producers in it, and Bruce Campbell does actually make a very brief cameo appearance in this film, voice only.
Voice only. We don't know if he's playing Ash though, because I think as of Ash. Army of Darkness, he's like stuck in time elsewhere, right?
Yeah,
but
lost
in
in
Ash
time.
versus the Evil Dead, he's in the present, so I don't know how that works out.
Yeah, this series is constantly retconning itself and just ignoring what other films did. That's just what they always do. And ever since that Evil Dead reboot, they've been like, all right, we're gonna have another Mia Allen movie, we're gonna have another Ash movie. It took them 10 years to come up with this,
which is funny because they wanted to make a Mia Allen, Bruce Campbell mashup movie.
They did. Yeah, there was talks of it. They were originally going to just put this straight on HBO's streaming service, but nowadays horror movies are a great way to make a quick buck at the theater because people will go see it, and they are usually really affordable to make. So this film's budget was somewhere between 15 to 20 million in, and it's already got like almost 50 million at the box office. So HBO and Warner Brothers, I'm sure, are very happy about that.
That after the merger with Discovery, they have kind of dialed back how much is going direct to streaming. They're going back to the theater because that's where I guess they see them. It makes sense. You make more money, obviously, with ticket revenue, with ticket sales, than you do with streaming rights, exclusivity. So that makes sense. The reason they also decided to go the route of theatrical release was because the early screenings were getting positive reviews, and so they were like, it's just like, oh yeah, no, let's capitalize on this and send it out.
And it honestly really smart, especially with the success of movies like Megan and Smile and stuff. Really can make that money. Trying to put this to like maybe a 1-sentence synopsis, but essentially, a family is in a kind of condemned Los Angeles apartment, and during an earthquake, they uncover one of the Book of the Deads, which then unleashes the deadites and just ravages their family.
Yep.
Now, who is this family? Well, it's a single mother. What was her name? Ellie? I think it was Ellie. And she's getting visited by her sister Beth, who just kind of came back from a vacation. They kind of have this strained relationship. She didn't even know that.
What? She
her
was on a
sister
vacation.
Ellie.
She works. She does sound tech
for...
her sister keeps calling her a groupie. That's where a source of their attention comes from. Her sister calls her a groupie, but she does sound tech for bands.
Okay. I watched a rip of this, so I think maybe I missed
did
something.
they
Audio.
Wow, miss. We
So
have
much.
was
Oh,
like,
you gotta
where
go back
was
to the
she?
theater.
save the theater.
Save the
please.
theater,
No.
everyone.
I'm gonna stream this movie illegally. The shade.
I know. I barely rip movies, and this was the one I'm like, I'm not going to the theater for this.
Oh, you missed out. This was a very.
I know,
very-
we switched roles,
This was a
honestly.
really, really fun one to watch in theaters. Thank God, my theater started off loud. I was gonna get so mad. It just made me every time I go to theater, I'm just like getting more and more angry at the fact that like, yo, why don't people shut the fuck up at these theaters anymore? But this one, I guess it caught people's attention because like once those first scares started, everyone shut up and was paying attention.
Oh shit. Yeah, the horror movies are always good to see with crowds. It's so much fun. But yeah, Beth is there, and she doesn't really even know that Ellie, broke up with her husband, and now her kids, her 3 children, are living without their dad, who isn't being a really good dad to them. The 3 kids are Danny, Bridget, and Cassie,
Yes.
who's not even a teenager. She's the baby. Yeah, and they're in a condemned, gross Los Angeles apartment.
I don't know.
And
I
they
wouldn't call it
have-
gross. I think it was a beautiful building.
It was gross.
You think so?
I don't know. Those rooms are pretty big.
Yeah,
too.
like the
That's
doors were
that
magnificent.
apartment
I
was
love the
big.
decor of this building.
Yeah.
You know what was gross was the coloring of this movie.
Oh, well, that might have been a rip thing, to be quite
Oh,
honest.
you thought it was
Yeah.
a beautiful color choice? Because it was
No.
very, like, sepia feeling.
No, it was not.
It wasn't? It was definitely a rip thing.
The colors were, they weren't even muted. I think they were saturated. But I would say it was mostly in the teal and red.
She's probably gonna start saying
Damn.
at some point there was always a shadow moving back and forth.
Yeah,
No.
seriously. Oh my gosh. One thing my rip had was this constant cuts to, like, a casino ad. And at first I thought it was in the movie. Yeah. Okay, well, whatever.
Wow.
Let me just stick to the story. Danny, he's into music, and he likes to like DJ and actually like with vinyls and stuff, you know.
Right.
So it's a little old school. And during the earthquake, they kind of come across a secret chamber.
So the building used to have a bank.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bank closed down, but it looks like they just like kind of built over it basically. And so after the earthquake kind of reveals parts of the vaults.
vault.
Yeah. And this is one of the things that was hidden in the vault.
Okay, and
There you
also just because we drop pizza on the floor and it's still in the box, it's still good, right? It's still in the box.
The kids
it's
ate
just totally-
that pizza.
It's like 2 boxes of pizza. Oh, I dropped it. Now we can't eat it anymore.
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
like,
no,
what the hell?
Not in this family. This family would have been like, oh, well, I guess we're just going to scrape some cheese off the top of that box. We're
Oh,
gonna Eat it.
yeah. She could pizza later.
It's the things that we focus on when we're watching these movies in theaters sometimes. So.
Seriously, right?
'Cause I think
Yeah.
that's me and Eddie whispering when she says like we can't have the pizza anymore, and Eddie's like, it's like what?
It's
Like,
Why
perfectly
not?
Pizza. It's not. It didn't jump out of the box.
Right, seriously.
It's
What a
literally
waste of food.
protected on the box. And why do we need to go? And another thing too, it's just crazy. It's just like, yeah, of course, couldn't be a movie without stuff like that, without stupid people making stupid decisions. You know, you just had an earthquake. Always expect there's gonna be some aftershocks, maybe following a major earthquake, and maybe climbing down into a vault wasn't a good idea. Leaving your 2 sisters behind to fend for themselves.
he was an
But
adventurous young man.
Danny.
What
Yeah.
can I say? But yes.
Well, if I were to find a book, that looked the way that book did, I was like, nope,
Mm-mm.
that would have been me. But I wouldn't have been in a horror movie, so that's why.
Mm-mm.
I don't know.
I'd
The,
be
the
a-
book didn't even look scary in my opinion. I
Can you
probably
open it up?
the book design for the. Oh wait, was this the one that had teeth? I take it back. This one did. This one
Yeah,
was
this
scary.
one had the
This
teeth,
one had
yeah.
the teeth on the thing. I was thinking of the original one. Wasn't that scary looking?
Yeah, they always look terrifying, so I don't know why anyone decides to open those books.
Yeah.
But
And of course,
whatever.
when the book opens up, once you drip blood on it,
It
come on,
activates it, yeah.
come on.
Yeah, seriously.
So,
So,
go on.
yeah, and Danny takes vinyls that came with it, phonograph records from like the 20s, and he spins them and listens to them. And of course, it's an incantation that summons these demonic entities. And the first person to get attacked is their mother.
terrifying.
Right.
Absolutely terrifying. Whoever this actress,
Yeah.
she just gave me terror.
Oh my gosh. So when I saw the trailer for this movie, I was like, hey, Bryce Dallas Howard's in this. It's not Bryce Dallas Howard. It's
Bryce?
but it's some other pretty white girl with red hair. Her name is Alyssa Sutherland.
Yeah, she is great, by the way. Like, she was...
Did a good job.
She is... I mean, she has to carry the
she's
film.
an Australian actress.
Yeah, she had to. So this woman, she had to carry the film, basically, right?
Yeah.
Because she is like the main possession.
Oh, she was in The Mist.
The TV show?
No, she was in the movie one.
Really? I don't remember her in The Mist, but she must have been like a teenager or something.
No, sorry.
So-
it was a TV show.
Oh,
Yes,
okay,
yes,
that
it was.
makes-
It
yeah, I
was.
was
It
about to
was.
say.
So do you think that the main possession person is the one who carries the film, or do you think the main survivor is the one who carries the film?
Both, but they both have very different jobs.
They do.
Yeah. Like, so Beth, who is played by Lily Sullivan, she, as the main survivor, we're supposed to empathize with her and kind of like really root for her to survive this at the end. Interesting thing that they did here in this storyline is that, so Beth just found out that she's pregnant. That's why she has come back to her sister. She needs help. I think we could all read between the lines there. I don't know why she couldn't do that in Europe, though, because that's where she was. I'm pretty sure Europeans aren't like so... coming to America to seek an abortion is probably the biggest mistake you made. You probably were better off in Europe.
Yeah, seriously.
Europe doesn't have the hang-ups on abortion as we do. They have the hang-ups with oh, do they? Maybe... I think in Europe they don't have the hang-ups with abortion. They have the Christian right is fighting like the end of public execution, capital punishment. Here in America, the Christian right, their thing is their blight is abortion and stuff. That's how we usually get summed up. So yeah, so she was in Europe to come all the way to America to seek an abortion. It's just like, you made a mistake, girl. Even in California, it's just like, it's so harder in America than you were in Europe. You're probably better off just like seeking help over there. But anyway, we needed a reason for her to come back, and her main storyline is this idea of motherhood. She is running away from this idea of motherhood that kind of now falls onto her after her sister gets possessed. And that's like an interesting way to kind of bring her... She has like this fear of like being an actual mother. Now she's stuck with it while literally fighting demons. You know what I mean? I think it was a great way to make us empathize with this character's arc. And so so that was the role of Beth. But Ellie, on the other hand, like Ellie, she has to carry the film because she's like the possessed. And as the possessed, like you have to be like scary. You have to be really able to contort your body. Because like, I mean, I know like a lot of that must have been like some CGI stuff, but like you still had to perform. And she was able to perform.
Yeah. The body contortion stuff was like, whoa.
And even even the other thing they played around with, I love this, just this idea of this tired mother who the demon just, I think it goes into your id, and it really like spits out like the things. It's like, I'm so glad I'm getting rid of these fucking children. I forgot, she was saying funny things about like getting rid of the children,
saying terrible things about her family. Yeah. But then she had that one moment too where she's like, don't let them take my babies. Right. So, good acting.
Yeah,
I definitely think she did a good job.
I thought she was wonderful.
I don't know if it translated well for you, Nicole, but in the theater, when she does the scream in the bathroom, when she climbs up on the wall and then screams.
And then stops.
Oh, that was so effing terrifying. It was just like, stop. It was so effing loud. It was just like, oh my God, this is painful. This is horrifying.
Damn. Oh, I would have loved to have heard that with Dolby. Even though I have surround sound here, it sounded pretty good. It's it's interesting because
so
we're rolling our eyes, everybody, just in case.
Sorry, guys.
Insert eye roll.
The one thing that I realized when I was watching this film and just like seeing not only the other Evil Dead films, but films this year, like say John Wick.
You saw the new John Wick?
I feel. Oh yeah, I love John Wick.
Oh. I hadn't yet to see any.
Oh, I love. They're great. I mean, well, I don't know if action is your genre and stuff.
It is.
And I just
haven't gone out to see it.
Well, I love them a lot. But I'm realizing, I'm like, wow, I am so desensitized to so many types of violence and gore in film. And when I was watching this, except for a couple of moments, I was like, this is just not working for me. Like, I don't really feel anything.
Interesting.
The moments that I felt it were the parts around the eyeballs, right? Like those kind of things where it was like, oh, it's about to go in that person's eye. That I was just like, right?
Oh,
always,
that's another.
That will always work for me.
That's another Bruce Campbell cameo. He did the chewing sound effects.
Ooh, man.
Of the
I love
eyeball.
it. He always does the best ones. The other cameo that he has is that he's on the record player being like, no, don't do it. Like, that's it. So.
Oh, that was him? I thought he was the priest that was reading the incantation. That makes more sense that he was a no, don't do it guy.
Yeah. It's like, was that a displaced Ash saying that they recorded? Who knows? But yeah. So it was interesting because like this film gets really gory and it's like just embraces it, right? Like everyone just slowly starts coming to the deadites. It starts with the mom, then she gets Bridget, right? Mm-hmm. And then Bridget starts fucking chewing glass. Which
that didn't do anything.
That was my other one that was disgusting.
That was a pretty gross moment in the film, I think.
Yeah.
No, yeah. Bridget is next to be infected, but there's also the massacre that happens in the hallway between Bridget getting infected.
It was those stuff that I was like, okay. Yeah, like that felt more so. It was like it's the eyeballs, it's the destroying your mouth with glass. Like those things get me. But just regular violence doesn't.
The cheese grater on the
cheese
ankle,
grater on the
calf didn't get you. That got me. I was just like,
there were moments.
No,
there were moments in
me.
this film when I just had to like turn my face.
A lot. It terrified me
because it was just. I was just gagging on the gore of it, just like really.
It was very gory,
and I was feeling everything. I was like covering my eye. I was just like bringing my arms around my chest. This is horrifying, absolutely horrifying.
Which, if you look at the original one and like the subsequent Evil Deads, like that is the appeal, the body horror.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yeah.
So this movie delivers to that.
It does.
I think.
Yeah, I think it does too. I was more amazed at myself where I was like, wow, I feel so desensitized. Even though I can applaud a job well done, which is what I think, the visuals of this film was, like, I don't really give a shit about the story. But like we said, it's not about the stories. That's why I'm more forgiving of the first Evil Dead. And this is why I like this film, is because it's like, hey, this was gross as fuck.
Oh, really? Well,
and that's what we came for.
I always come for story first. And I think this one delivered on a story. I think the arc for Beth becoming the maternal figure and like her protectiveness of these children as they die one by one, right? So usually I think a lesser movie, the three kids would have survived. Here, only the youngest survives, and barely, I think, by the end of the film. Yeah. So
thank God. I hate seeing bad things happen to children.
But they put this poor little girl through so much in this film.
So much. Traumatized.
It was, I think, but effective for that. And I think they fleshed out a good character and a good reason as to why she wants to survive this. And I think the other aspect of this film I like is by changing the setting. So we're not in the woods like the 2013 or the original one. We're now we're in an urban landscape. We're in a high rise, not 13th floor, but still we're still pretty up high. I think that, and changing how we're isolated. The isolation here is what works also in this film. Like how these characters are isolated seems so unique.
Yeah.
That it works, and I appreciated that. The other real thing I appreciated with this film, though, was the beginning of the movie. It also flips that idea. You know how we complained about this, I think, for Pet Sematary, when a movie starts at the end and you're like stuck. It's just like, oh, how did we get here? Yeah. This one, they gave you a flash forward, but it was not really related to the movie at all. It was actually would have been more so the after credit scene that we would see, I would say. The beginning, actually, I think it did it effectively, where I'm like expecting, how the hell do these stories, or how are they going to connect? I was like curious, how do we get from there to here? And I think it made me like kind of, I was constantly like trying to guess, and because I couldn't figure it out until the very end, I was left like kind of really more so enjoying the film for what it was. I'm just, because I was curious, like, how do we get to these kids in the woods? But which I also think the intro was actually really well done, like with the girl.
And then it says Evil Dead Rise.
Evil Dead Rise in the background, the horizon. I think that was like wonderfully done. That kind of set a tone for me what to expect. I'm just like, I'm expecting a cool movie, and it delivered. In my opinion.
Yeah, no, I thought this was fine. I guess I'll say. I'm not gonna say great. I think this was good. I think it's a fun night out at the movies. It delivers everything you want.
Oh, not
but
if you're Nicole. You're streaming
personally,
this, apparently.
Yes, but I also don't think that the story I just don't think it was 100% effective for me. I see the beats that you're talking about, but for me it was more of like an eye roll because it was kind of predictable. And again, I'm not there for the story, so every time it cuts to that, I'm like, oh god, right? I get it.
The story wasn't like so deep. It wasn't like so front and center. Actually, the thing that was front and center was probably that like, oh no, I appreciate this for the film also was that last Cronenberg type monster.
Oh yeah, the deformity, the mutation.
Which I appreciate. They also never like really held the shot to like ever get a clear view of it. They kept it obscure enough where it just kept it just like your imagination is the one that's getting the best of you on that one.
And it's interesting because it's a similar thing that was done for like that crazy movie we saw at Levi's house. Also about the that society that looks human, but they were actually these monsters and they would deform their bodies.
You're not talking about Body Snatchers, are you?
No.
The one that
so remember the main character, he finds out that his family was this. He was adopted.
Yeah. It was like this,
and then they all merge.
Yeah,
like an orgy.
It was like this awful B movie. I don't remember what it was called, but if I remember,
okay.
Again, but that was like another Cronenberg type-esque film.
Yeah, Cronenberg, the master of body horror for sure. Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you enjoyed it so thoroughly. I'm glad these people, passed Screenwriting 101. I wasn't as in like gripped by it. But I think that in terms of like a horror film, horror is just such a reliable genre at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that even though it's too CGI'd for, I guess, my taste, like I'm more into like give me practical. I think that the goriness, like even though I'm desensitized to it, like I felt it was 100% effective the entire time, and I actually thought it was really impressive, even though majority of it was CGI. And I thought the performances were really impressive. Like it bothered me, the little girl, that tortured me.
Mm-hmm.
That's like my soft spot. But like, so in those ways, the tension, 100% the best thing about this movie. It was very tense.
Yes.
And it's just so glad. I'm like, even though it's a revival or a reboot or whatever, it's also a really brand new story.
It is. And I think this ultimately, I had told my friend I was going to watch it in the theaters because he invited me to go see the film. And I was like, oh, I'm already watching it on Tuesday for the podcast. He's like, wait, why? Like, this is a sequel. Like, this doesn't qualify as anything. I'm like, wait, is it a sequel? Because it's like, it's not a direct sequel to any of them. And it's not. And it's not, if anything, it's more like a soft reboot of the franchise and stuff. And I think an effective one, in my opinion. That's what I have to say about that. Now, I will say one thing I took issue with, and Eddie's one who pointed this out, but it's like, of course, the Hispanics all got massacred. Like, not one survivor. And there was only, like, one attractive person in the whole film, and, like, he's afraid he dies.
Yeah, he
dies, like, 5 minutes. Like, Jesus, make him take off his shirt and, like, survive a little bit longer. Jeez, Hollywood. Give us something.
Yeah, I know. I didn't realize that, but good point. Absolutely good point.
Yes, no, totally. Shit, there was one more thing. Oh, but now, why this film and the 2013 remake reminded me of the remake of Hellraiser, where I think Hellraiser tried to do a little bit of a deeper story that's related to addiction, and like the addiction, that was related to the carnal pleasures of the body, right? That was like what they were trying to do here. In this one, I think this is sometimes like those plots don't work because they're either too hand in fist or they're too nebulous. In this one, I actually think both the 2013 remake, by making this young woman who is trying to get clean cold turkey and like kind of almost making those symptoms being that of the demonic possession, I thought that was smart, and it makes sense for good storytelling, like why her friends would be like kind of in disbelief of her, what she's saying is happening to her. In this case, this story tries to connect motherhood, and it's kind of like a family drama that's kind of like hidden behind all the horror. for me, that worked and stuff. So I think it's just like I don't know. I know you weren't a fan of the story, but I actually think for me that's kind of, I think the story being like as successful as it is what made it so much more enjoyable for me. Because like, yeah, the blood and the gore is cool. The bloody elevator scene, that's fun. But for me, ultimately, it's just like, but how can I connect to these characters? And like, I think Beth is, by the end of the film, like someone I was just really rooting for her. And you know, she got her Ash moment. She, you know, she kills these monsters with chainsaws and stuff, and I thought it was cool.
And the shredder.
And the shredder, yeah. She went Fargo.
Do you think the next film will also be just a completely different, here's another group of people who find the book, or do you think they might actually return some of these characters?
So Lily Sullivan, the woman who plays Beth, I think she's so beautiful on screen, as she was like kind of just like covered in blood and like murdering people with a chainsaw, that is just like, I don't know, she has like that star power. It's just like, why lose it? Now, is there a chance that maybe now we'll get that movie that has Bruce Campbell, Lily Sullivan, and
Beth and Cassie, because she survived too.
Cassie, yeah, but I'm thinking, no, what's her name? Jane Levy, who played Mia. Like, will we see these characters all together in another film? Maybe, because I think that's what a good reboot does. It kind of gives fresh blood for audiences here, and this one,
pun intended.
A little bit intended. Clearly I stumbled my words into getting into that one.
So much blood.
But yeah, I think that's what I think. They got lucky. I think they delivered a solid film, and I think this is going to reinvigorate the franchise, kind of in a way that the 2013 one didn't.
Yeah, for sure. I think people were kind of like, why, when that first came out, and they're not saying that anymore. They're kind of like, oh, it's about time, which is interesting.
Yeah, and the 2013, it's a shame because I'm gonna stand by this. The 2013 one is good. Like the 2013 one, it's a remake, but it's also a reboot, and I think it's a valid one, just as much. I think this one is just as valid too.
Nice.
And I don't know what the end game of these deadites is, though. Do you know? Like, what do they want?
I think there was a line that was said in Evil Dead 2 or Army of Darkness where it was like, you know, we will rise and we will inhabit the world like we once did. So I think they want to like own the world. They want to live up there. So I think so.
Okay. Well,
don't quote me on that. Do you guys know, though? Do you guys have any thoughts on these new Evil Dead movies and any of the franchises? Do you miss Ash? Do you miss Mia? What do you think about Beth? Ways that you can let us know. You can email us at remakes-reboots-and-revivals.com. Sorry, remakes-reboots-revivals@gmail.com. You can reach out to us on Instagram at remakes-reboots-revivals. You can reach out on Twitter at Remakes Podcast. You can search for us on YouTube and Facebook by searching Remakes, Reboots, and Revivals. And if you are listening on a podcasting platform, please go to that podcasting platform and give us a rating. And if you can, leave a review. And that's it. That's my spiel.
Yeah.
Wow, this is real engaging podcasting, guys.
What I'm supposed to say is like, yeah. Email. Actually, we've been getting emails, so keep sending those emails, guys. I actually do enjoy reading your thoughts and your recommendations. We got some recommendations.
Absolutely.
For upcoming episodes.
Which, by the way, do we have a sneak peek for next week, or we haven't decided yet?
Do we have a sneak peek? What are
we do. I think we will be going with the Peter Pan and Wendy Disney Plus film that is coming out this weekend.
Fatal Attraction.
Or Dungeons and Dragons.
Fatal Attraction comes out.
I think we're going to do probably Dungeons and Dragons when Nicole's out, because she's going to be out towards the end of the month. So I figure, like, all right, there we go. That's when we can get Dungeons and Dragons in.
All right, guys, we're going to talk about this amongst ourselves. Stay tuned next week and find out what it is we're going to be doing. So until next time,
stay unoriginal.